I started the second day with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, entering the shrine I found the night before, and immediately started to run into a problem. By this point I've gotten a lot better with the controls, but still haven't managed how to disconnect items after I've ultra-handed them together, leading to some brute force methods. Afterwards I continue with my newest goal, finish the first of the main quests, but going in a straight line would be boring, so I allow myself every distraction along the way. The towers make great temporary goalposts with a multitude of things to do in between. I've begun taking photos of everything I stumble across, something that'll help greatly in the long run. I always stop to help Addison by constructing convoluted contraptions, and there are even a series of mini-games to help earn minuscule amounts of rupees. This being my first encounter with the lady who's bad at children and even worse at keeping her sand seal plushies in her cart. Journeying through this set of ruins, I received the biggest fright I'll get from Tears of the Kingdom. The Gloom Hands are no Guardian replacements, but they're still a hectic encounter. Especially this early on, fighting them is an exercise in futility. I can only hope to survive long enough before they naturally despawn. I'm sure that one day when I finally have the confidence to take one of them out, nothing horrifying will happen just after doing so. Reaching the tower I was heading towards, I realized that similarly to Breath of the Wild, each includes a slight puzzle. This time it's reaching it, and with the power of tower, that's no issue. Once in the sky, I found one of my favorite minigames, the diving races. Link has gotta reach the bottom while getting through all the rings, and it's really fun. Falling in this game works so well. It would have been great if there were many more of these. Unfortunately, I can't quite remember how to actually dive. So after completing it, a kind construct informs me that I did it really quickly, and it gives me a glide shirt, making movement while falling even easier. A true win-win. By this point, I have also started to notice the formula that all the major Sky Islands fit into. Each island group usually has one shrine and one Korok seed, and so after clearing the shrine, I go for the Korok. And as a bonus, I find the button to dive again, slowly mastering the albeit slightly obtuse controls. Yahaha! Heading back down to Hyrule, I continue to make a somewhat detoured approach to the next quest, helping Addison a couple of times, and running into the first of one of the weirdest side quest lines. These two sisters are looking for mushrooms. They need me to clear out the cave for them. I do so, and along the way find the best armor piece in the game, the sexy backlist frostbite shirt. Getting even closer to my goal, I first decided to apply for a job at the Lucky Clover Gazette. We meet our new best bird friend, and are told we'll be working with him to investigate mysterious Zelda rumors. But with no more delay, it's time to head to Rito Village and learn about this big snowstorm. And to do that, I must utilize a very important new aspect to Tears of the Kingdom. By dropping a pine cone into an open flame, it'll create a huge gust of wind to launch Link into the air. This early example is used to get across a bridge-less gap, but I later utilize it to skip over some puzzles with quite obvious solutions. More on that in a bit. Finally, in the village, Link meets up with the bird guy from the previous game, and his now very important son, Tulin. Link is also told that the snowstorm is caused by something in the big whirlwind, but that he should first track down Tulin to make sure he's safe. And instead of doing that, I go around and explore for a bit. One of the first things I ran into was one of my favorite types of Korok puzzle. These poor statues are sitting under a broken roof, so Link needs to find the missing piece and shove it in. I really loved the feeling of finding and finagling these pieces into place. Afterwards, I ran into my first cherry blossom tree and my first Satori. It reveals the locations of any nearby cave entrances after receiving an offering. It's both extremely useful and very nice to be reminded of Iwata so often. In one of the caves, I stumbled across another shrine. This shrine, by all measures, is easy. But, as I mentioned earlier, I still haven't grokked how to unstick items, which makes this shrine an exercise in futility. Finally, I try to reconfigure to no avail. Once, I kill Link to reset the shrine entirely. I do a really dumb solution that actually manages to hit the first mark, which enables me to correctly set up and hit the second. On a lighter note, I really enjoyed the gimmick of this other shrine. Creeping around Mission Impossible and Resident Evil movie style lasers was really cool. After running around in a snowstorm and much more spelunking, I finally found Tulin and unlocked the most useful power-up, his Wind Gust. From here on out, you'll never see me gliding without having his winds push me forward at regular intervals. He and Link team up for a bit to fight some guys, and apparently they make such a good team it's decided they'll be the ones to investigate the vortex. On one hand, this journey into the vortex is sick. Flying through the air from floating platform to floating platform, slowly climbing an elevation, is really awesome. It's an exciting pre-dungeon lead-up. On the other hand, at this point, I was having a hard time remembering that at any point I could look up at the ceiling and no-clip through it, which led to multiple times where instead of swimming up to the top of a platform, I instead had Link fly up with a pinecone and slowly climb the rest of the way. And if I didn't have the stamina, then I guess I should go somewhere else. Not look at my overall moveset, that would make too much sense. Glancing down, I noticed a nearby tower. Knowing they shoot Link way up in the air, I thought maybe I could utilize it to skip the puzzle instead of realizing I have the Ascend ability. And unfortunately, it worked. Skipped right over it. But hey, the game lets me do it, so I can do it. So Link made it up to the top, got spoken to by a spirit, and was introduced to the boats. For gameplay reasons, they bounce Link high into the air, and that's always a fun mechanic. Speaking of not remembering mechanics, I didn't realize I could shoot through bars, but I'll be back. Instead of going up the intended way, I teleport to a slightly higher vantage point, and then I miss the platform I was trying to even land on. The rest of this continues much the same. Sometimes I utilize fire to get high enough to reach the next platform. Sometimes just bouncing on boats is enough. Maybe a falling platform tricks me, and instead of ascending up to the platform I was trying to get to, instead I go to the surface and collect more pine cones. Climbing further, I utilized a balloon to get up this high, and instead of ascending through this platform, I just used the balloons from earlier and a large Zonai charge to get even higher. Of course, this is Tears of the Kingdom, so how I get to a point doesn't quite matter, so long as I do get there. And finally, after much bouncing and gliding, I find myself at the Wind Temple, and I am so excited. It was a breath of fresh air to have another temple to explore after all this time. Wandering around this big ship was exciting, the music was great, and while searching for the Wind MacGuffins was just fine, the puzzles along the way were really fun to figure. My personal favorite moment, trying to get this chest. Early attempts were me trying to create a sort of ramp to walk into the area. This didn't work. What did work was making a big stick, and sticking the stick into the hole, and connecting the stick with the chest, and then pulling the stick back out along with the chest. This game is so cool. And the cool moments only gained momentum. After unlocking the last of the MacGuffins, Tulin and Link encountered the coolest boss in the game. The duo are blasted into the air to face off against the scourge of the Wind Temple, Colgate Toothpaste. This boss is just flying through the air and shooting arrows in slow motion. It's not especially hard, but the actions themselves are so exciting. It was especially cool to hit the weak points as Colgate is flying up through its portals. Loved getting him before he even had a chance to attack. Colgate gets got and blows up, Tulin touches what I now know is a secret stone, and the two meet a sage from back when Rauru was still kicking. He tells us of the ancient battle with the evil demon king Ganondorf, how afterwards a figure known as Zelda, who looks a lot like Zelda, tells him that Ganondorf will one day awaken, and how he promised that the new sage will lend Link their strength. Well, Tulin, the new sage, accepts the deal, summons a cool spirit Tulin, and through the power of handshakes, note the focus on hands, grants Spirit Tulin to Link. And all that being said, it's a really solid cutscene this first time. Back on the ground, all the snow has melted, Tulin has impressed his father, and I am now aimless. Having completed my main goal, I'm now just wandering Hyrule and finding things to do. Like at one point I want to climb the spire at the center of Reno Village. Doing so rewards me with a Korok. Then I use that vantage point to race to a star fragment. I don't get to the star in time, but I do find plenty of other things in the vicinity. Then I revisit the shrines I skipped on my way to the Wind Temple. This time remembering I can shoot through bars, and I get to have a lot of fun with more boats. Plus I run into my first of Raru's blessings. These shrines are considered completed for simply reaching them. The first time I found it, it was a pleasant surprise, but over time my opinion on them waned. From this high up I encountered my first Sky Island chest containing an old map, and this feature impressed me so much. Not only is there a big old landmass underneath the surface, but by exploring the sky, I'll be able to track down chests underneath. It encourages such a fun gameplay loop of exploring every tier available, and I couldn't wait to do so. But first, I tried to launch myself to an island even higher in the sky, and way underestimated how high that island actually was. By this point, I realized that I have a freakishly good sense for finding Koroks, launched my very first crystal shine way into the air, and in another shrine finally began to grasp that the Ascend ability truly lets me skip through any surface. Finally, I ran into a Lionel, of which I was in no way prepared to face off against. So instead I snapped a picture and ran away. And to my horror, when the guy teleports to me, they can do that? I make my way towards the Gerudo Highlands, although I do not intend to investigate what's up with them at this point. Instead I make my way to the nearby tower. The tower puzzle for this region was really cool. The entrance was completely covered in snow and must be entered underneath via Ascend. And hey, I'm getting better at using Ascend. In the air, I see a big orb in the sky, and I love to see a big orb in the sky, and I'm surprised to find this platform fall as soon as I land on it. This is also the first time where, as I'm falling, a star fragment spawns, and any action that involves moving around while falling is incredibly satisfying to pull off, and I'm glad Nintendo put in so many events that utilized this. Also, my prescience continues as I snap a pic of this tablet. On the ground now, I stumble across the big hole that Master Koga, the leader of the Yiga clan, fell into in the previous game. But this time it's Link's turn to jump into it. And I just have to say, the transition between Hyrule and the depths is so cool to witness every single time. My time in the depths this time was short but very enlightening. I learned what the Yiga clan have been up to since the ending of Breath of the Wild, exploring the depths, which makes so much sense. Koga got sent there years ago. Of course the clan would have bases all throughout. I brute forced myself into one, shot the guy guarding the treasure room, found the schematics that I had no use for, and found some crystal charges that I had absolutely no idea where to spend them. Like, I saw where to spend them the day prior, but that knowledge was gone. The last thing I did was find this wild structure that stretches to the ceiling, and I did the only reasonable action and ascended through it, finding myself atop a mushroom, which again, so cool how the layers are all connected in this way. The rest of my second day with Tears of the Kingdom was spent exploring. I searched Satori Mountain, finding a really cool cave where Bloopies led me to this area, helped out Addison a bunch, found more Koroks, and completed more shrines, and that's where this entry in the diary log will conclude. 2 days in, and I have fallen completely in love with this game. There were so many mechanics, so many things to do, I was eager to do them all. Even just running around and finding Koroks was pleasurable, and I had loads more inbound. Let me know in the comments your favorite moments from Tears of the Kingdom, especially with how cool that Colgate boss was. If you'd like, maybe leave a rating on the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more of what I put out. If you'd like to read my thoughts elsewhere on the internet, you can find me on all of my socials where I'm at Mario8th everywhere, and the links to each are in the description. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time, but before I go, let's see one more death montage.